Hello and welcome to lesson 25. In today's lesson, we are going to review some of the language and the grammar that we looked at in the past few lessons, okay? So I think it's very important you have a notebook and a pen today because we will do a listening comprehension, we're going to do a dictation. So I'm going to get you to write some things down. So it's a good idea. So let's have a look. What are we doing in the class today? Okay, so in today's class, we're going to look at comparative and superlative forms in context. We are going to look at some irregular adjectives, good and bad. We are going to listen to a story. So telling a story or an anecdote with a lot of past simple. We are going to do some comprehension, check some comprehension of the story and look at language and pronunciation. Okay, but first, as you can see, we will start the class with a dictation. So are you ready? Do you have your pen and your paper? Yes? Okay, well, let's begin. This dictation is sentences, okay? I will say each sentence 3 times. You listen, write the sentence, and you can pause the video, okay? Just pause it so that it gives you time to write, okay? Are you ready? The first sentence is, Natalie is older than her brother. Natalie is older than her brother. Natalie is older than her brother. Okay, you can also think, is it true or is it false? Okay, is it true or is it false? Right, next sentence. Cairo is bigger than Dubai. Cairo is bigger than Dubai. Is it difficult? Cairo is bigger than Dubai. Okay, the next sentence. The River Nile is shorter than the Mississippi River. The River Nile is shorter than the Mississippi River. The River Nile is shorter than the Mississippi River. Now, yes, I know Mississippi is a very difficult word to spell, so I'm going to spell it for you, okay? So Mississippi, how do you spell it? Are you ready? It's M-I-S-S-I-P-I. Okay? All right, next sentence. The highest mountain in Africa is Mount Olympus. The highest mountain in Africa is Mount Olympus. The highest mountain in Africa is Mount Olympus. Is that true or false? What do you think? Okay, this is the last sentence. Okay, it's quite long. I'll read it all first, okay? One of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. One of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. One of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. Now, is this true or false? So now, if you want, you can listen again to the sentences. I will say them all one more time so you can check your work. And Then we will look at the language in the sentences, and that's it, okay? So one more time. Natalie is older than her brother. Cairo is bigger than Dubai. The River Nile is shorter than the Mississippi River. The highest mountain in Africa is Mount Olympus. And finally, one of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. One of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. Okay? All right, now. Right, very good. So here we have the sentences. Let me just put them up one by one. Now, is this true or false? True or false? In fact, this one is actually true because my brother is 2 years younger than me. He's 2 years younger than me. Okay, so I'm older and he's younger. Now this one, Cairo is bigger than Dubai. Now, is this true or is this false? I want you to look on the internet in English to discover, to find out, is it true or false? You have a look on the internet, okay, in English. Just write, okay, Cairo population, Dubai population. You find out the information, okay. And number 3, the River Nile is shorter than the Mississippi River. Is that true or false? Okay, and number 4, the highest mountain in Africa is Mount Olympus. Is that true or false? Have a look on the internet. Find out the information. Okay, and one of the longest bridges in the world is in Singapore. Okay, fantastic. Right. Good, well done. Now we will just have a look at a little bit of the language. Okay, a little bit of the language. All right, so let's have a look. Here you can see, can you see the red? We've got older than, bigger than, shorter than. These are the comparative forms, and then we have 2 examples of the superlative forms with short adjectives, okay? So you can see that there, all right? So very good. And now, this is new information, so write it down because we didn't do it in the last class, and it's actually very, very, very important. Okay, so irregular adjectives. We're going to look at irregular adjectives. There are 3, but we're going to look at 2 very, very important and useful adjectives, and probably you will go, yes, of course, it's true, it's true. Okay, so normally we have big, bigger, the biggest. Long, longer, the longest. Difficult, more difficult, the most difficult. Interesting, more interesting, the most interesting, etc. Okay, but these ones are different. Have a look at this. So we've got good, better, and yes, the best. I'll just disappear so you can see it. The best. Good, better, and the best. All right, and now another one. I'll disappear again, I think. Right. Okay, so we've got bad, a bad film, a bad interview, worse, and the worst. Okay, bad, worse, the worst. Okay, so do you recognize these words? I think now I will give you some examples. If you like these examples, write them down, okay? All right, so here we go. Here are the examples. Messi is the best football player in the world. I can't sing. My son is worse than me. Shh, don't tell him that. This is true. My mother is a better cook than me. I think that Meryl Streep is one of the best actresses in the world. And a blue sofa is better than an orange sofa because it's more relaxing. Do you agree with that? And the last one, the film I saw last night was the worst film ever. The worst. Terrible. Very bad. The worst. Okay, so there were some examples. Right, and I'll just show you now quickly on the screen the comparative and superlative forms. So here you go, there they are. Okay. All right, now, what I want to do now is a listening. Okay, so I'm just going to show you some vocabulary. It's a little anecdote, a little story about my friend Jane. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at some vocabulary first. So you've got, this is a picture of a train here, and the train has different carriages. Each one of the places where you go on a train is called a carriage. Notice the spelling and the pronunciation, it's carriage. And another important word is empty, which is with nothing, no people. And the opposite is crowded, crowded, okay, which means it's lots and lots and lots of people, okay? All right, so we've got empty and crowded and carriage, so related to trains. And now I'm going to show you some questions, and think about these questions when you're listening to the story or the anecdote, okay? So here we go. I'll put the questions here for you. So what was the woman's name? Did she catch the first train? What was the weather like? What colour was the man's coat? Where did the man get off the train? And what did Jane's PA is personal assistant, what did Jane's PA give her when she got to work? If you want, you can go back and write the questions down, or just think about the questions when I'm telling you the story, okay? Are you ready? Just relax and listen. Okay. This is a story about a woman called Jane. She worked for a big international company, and every day she got the train to work. Now, one day it rained very heavily, so lots of rain. So there were more people on the train than usual. It was also a Monday morning, so a lot of people were feeling a bit grumpy. Well, grumpier than normal. Now, Jane wanted to get on the train, but it was very, very crowded. So she waited for the next train. The next train was also crowded, but she saw there was a small space and she stepped into the carriage. Just as she stepped on, a man in a green coat jumped onto the train and pushed her very hard. She wasn't hurt, but she noticed that the man didn't say sorry. He then talked very loudly on his mobile phone for the rest of the journey. When Jane got off the train, she was disappointed to see that he got off the train too. When she left out of the station, so she left the station and went left, she was disappointed to see that he also turned left out of the station. So she started walking faster. She didn't like the man in the green coat at all. Jane arrived at her office and her PA brought her a nice cup of coffee. Jane checked her emails and then prepared herself for her first meeting. At 9:30 or 9:30, she had an interview scheduled with someone. She was looking for a new PA. At 28 minutes past 9, or 9:28, her PA knocked on the door and told her that her first interviewee was outside. She was very surprised when he walked in. It was the man in the green coat. I am sure you are not surprised to hear that he didn't get the job. Okay, now before we listen again, let's have a look at the questions that I showed you at the beginning. First of all, what was the woman's name? Do you remember? Yes, her name was Jane, or she was called Jane. Did she catch the first train? No, she didn't. The first train was too crowded, so she caught the second train. What was the weather like? The weather, it was raining heavily. So that means raining a lot. What colour was the man's coat? This is easy. It was green, yes. And where did the man get off the train? Yes, he got off the train at the same station as Jane. And what did Jane's PA give her when she got to work? Yes, that's right, a nice cup of coffee. That's a very good PA. Okay, so now to make sure you understand the story, I'm going to read the story again, all right? But with the text on the screen for you, so that you can read, listen, and relax, okay? So I'll just read it, you read and listen. If you don't want to, just fast forward and you can get to a different bit of the lesson, okay? So here we go. This is a story about a woman called Jane. She worked for a big international company and every day she got the train to work. One day it rained very heavily, so there were more people on the train than usual. It was also a Monday morning, so a lot of people were feeling a bit grumpy. Well, grumpier than normal. Jane wanted to get on the train, but it was very crowded, so she waited for the next train. Next train was also crowded, but she saw there was a small space and she stepped onto the carriage. Just as she stepped on, a man in a green coat jumped onto the train and pushed her very hard. She wasn't hurt, but she noticed that the man didn't say sorry. He then talked very loudly on his mobile phone for the rest of the journey. When Jane got off the train, she was disappointed to see that he got off the train too. When she went left out of the station, she was disappointed to see that he also turned left out of the station. She started walking faster. She didn't like the man in the green coat at all. Jane arrived at her office and her PA brought her a nice cup of coffee. Jane checked her emails and then prepared herself for her first meeting. At 9:30, she had an interview scheduled with someone. She was looking for a new PA. At 28 minutes past 9, or 9:28, her PA knocked on the door and told her that her first interviewee was outside. She was very surprised when he walked in. It was the man in the green coat. I am sure you are not surprised to hear that he didn't get the job. Okay, there we are. Right, I think if you want, you can go back, listen again and again, and make sure you understand the story. Maybe you can even write the story yourself. Okay, so that's a very good way to practice, and notice all those fantastic past simple verbs. Did you see the past simple verbs? There were lots of past simple verbs. So it's fantastic practice. Okay, so now the last thing we are going to do in today's class, we're going to look at the questions, and then we are just going to do a little personal activity, okay? So let's just check the questions first. Okay, so what was the woman's name? Do you remember? Ah, yes, of course, it was Jane. Yes, we talked about this already. Yes, sorry, I forgot. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next part of the lesson. Okay, sorry about that. Right, here we are. Even teachers make mistakes. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to do this activity. You do this activity at home, and I'm going to do the activity too. Okay, I want to do this activity. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a sentence, and you have to write down the answer, but they're not, it's not right or wrong, it's answers about you, about your life. Okay, so here we are. So the first one is write down the name of the best cook in the family. The best cook in your family, right? Are you ready? Have you got it? Right, this is the name of the best cook in my family. Greta. She's a very, very good cook. It's my mum. Well done, Mum. Okay. Right, next one. Are you ready? Okay. Okay. Write down the name of the tallest person in your family. Okay, you ready? Okay. Right? The tallest person in my family is this here, Paul. He's my cousin, and he's very tall. Well, he's taller than me. That's not difficult. Okay, are you ready? Right. Now write down the name of your best friend. This for me is very difficult because I don't have one best friend. I have lots of best friends, but here's one. This is my one of my best friends here in Barcelona. Hello, Christina. Thank you. Okay. All right. And now, next one. Okay. Write down the day of the week you like best. Are you ready? Here we are. That's mine. Saturday. I love Saturdays. I love them. And Fridays are good too, but Saturdays, I don't like Saturdays. I love Saturdays. Okay. Right. And the next one. Okay, write down the name of the most stubborn person in your family. Who is the most stubborn person in your family? Okay, ready? Are you ready? Mine is this. This is my aunt. She's very stubborn. Okay. Actually, my sister-in-law is quite stubborn too. Yeah, so maybe I'm going to add something. Shh. Janet and Liz, but shh. Don't tell Liz, okay? I said that. Okay, and let's have a look. That it? And the last one, I'll just write down the name of the youngest person in your family. The youngest person in your family. Okay, are you ready? Oh, the youngest person in my family is George. George, he's so cute. He's 3. He's so sweet. He's got brown eyes, brown hair, beautiful face, and he's very small. Yeah, he's very sweet. Very sweet. He's my nephew. Do you remember what nephew is? He's my nephew. And his mother is Liz. Okay. All right, so this is a very good way to practice because you have to understand the information. You can write down the names, and then to practice English, you can say, yes, George. Who is George? George is my nephew. He's the youngest person in the family. Janet. Janet is my aunt. She's the most stubborn person in my family. She's also, I think, the oldest person in my family. Okay. And then we've got Liz. She's my sister-in-law. She's married to my brother, for example. Okay, so that's a very good way to practice. You can do it today. You can do it tomorrow. It's very good to recycle. So now you have your list of words. Tomorrow, try to remember the sentences, okay? It's a very good way to review. All right, so that is what we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found the lesson interesting and informative. We did lots of information in the class, and goodbye, and I will see you in lesson 26. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.